Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin today by telling you something that took me many years to understand. You don't become wealthy because of the economy, or the government, or the weather, or the way the wind blows. If that were true, we'd all be rich together. But life doesn't work that way. Wealth is never an accident. It's a habit. A small, daily, deliberate habit practiced by ordinary people who one day decide they are tired of living at the mercy of their bills. You see, most people don't fail because of a catastrophe. Most people fail because they never learn the simple disciplines that build wealth. They work all year for their money, but they never make their money work for them. And that's the great tragedy. You can work hard your entire life and still end up with nothing to show, not because you lacked effort, but because no one ever taught you the habits that turn effort into freedom. Let me tell you something else. Income is not wealth. Income feeds you. Wealth frees you. Income gets you through the month. Wealth gets you through life. Income is the paycheck. Wealth is the philosophy. And far too many people spend their lives chasing the wrong one. When I was younger, I used to believe that if I just worked a little longer, pushed a little harder, stayed up a little later, one day the universe would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Jim, today is your day. Here's your wealth." But life never said that, because life doesn't reward time, it rewards value. Life doesn't reward motion, it rewards direction. And life doesn't reward dreams, it rewards habits. And that's why we're here today. Not to talk about theories, not to talk about miracles, not to talk about luck. We're here to talk about 5 simple habits, simple enough that anyone can start, powerful enough that they can change your entire financial destiny. 5 habits that the wealthy follow, not because they're lucky, but because they're disciplined. And if you stay with me, if you truly listen, the 5th habit might be the one that opens a door in your mind that has been shut for years. My mentor once told me, "Jim, a change in your life begins with a change in your philosophy. Today, we're going to change your philosophy. We're going to move you from working for money to making money work for you. From chasing paychecks to creating freedom. From living by chance to living by habit." So let's begin this journey together. And remember, as we go through these principles, wealth is not something you pursue. Wealth is something you attract by the person you become. Now let's begin with the first habit. And I believe it's the one that separates people who merely survive from those who eventually thrive. I call it the habit of paying yourself first. And let me tell you why this one habit alone could change the entire course of your financial life. Every time you earn $1, you face a decision. And that decision is the same whether you earn a little or a lot. The question is, do I spend this or do I plant this? Most people, without thinking, without hesitation, without discipline, spend the entire thing, and they wonder why nothing grows for them. You can't plant what you've already eaten. Now let me give you a little picture to remember. Imagine every paycheck is a bag of seeds. Some people take that bag of seeds, look at it, smile, tear it open, and eat the whole thing on the spot. It tastes good for a moment, sure. But next season, when the harvest comes, they have nothing. Nothing to reap, nothing to gather, nothing to grow, because they consumed everything meant for their future. The wealthy do something very different. The wealthy say, "I'll eat enough to live today, but I'll always plant enough to live better tomorrow." And that, my friends, is the habit of paying yourself first. Not last, first. Before the rent, before the bills, before the impulse buys, before the shiny little distractions that come disguised as happiness, you set aside a portion for your future. My mentor once said to me, "Jim, the key is not how much you make. The key is how much you keep." And he was right. I've met people who earned little but became free. And I've met people who earned a fortune but ended up trapped. The difference was never the amount. It was always the habit. You see, if you can't save 10 cents out of $1, you'll never save 10,000 out of 100,000. Don't fall for the illusion. People say, "When I earn more, I'll save more." No. If you won't save when it's a little, you won't save when it's a lot, because the issue isn't money, it's discipline. So start small. Start with something. Start with 5% or even 1%. It's not the amount that matters, it's the pattern. the habit, the philosophy. Because when you pay yourself first, you're telling your future, I haven't forgotten you. Let me tell you a short story. I once spoke with a man who made a very handsome income. He had the car, he had the clothes, he had the dinners, he had the lifestyle. And he told me, Jim, I make more than most people I know, but I always feel broke. And I said, well, that's because you're paying everyone else first. The restaurant, the brand, the entertainment, the bank, the bills, everyone but you. And he nodded because he knew he had stopped planting his seeds. Another friend of mine made far less money, but he paid himself first, month after month, year after year. And you know what happened? His money grew. His confidence grew. His discipline grew. And eventually his freedom grew. You see, it wasn't his income that made him wealthier. It was his habits. So if you want to walk the path of wealth, begin with this habit. Pay yourself first. It's the foundation. It's the root. It's the beginning of every great financial story. Because until you learn to value your future more than your impulses, wealth will always stay just out of reach. Now, once you've learned to pay yourself first, the next habit is what truly begins to separate the wealthy from the weary. And that is the habit of investing consistently. Not occasionally. Not when you feel like it. Not when the stars align and everything is perfect. Consistently. Let me tell you why this is so powerful. You can work hard, and I encourage you to. You can put in extra hours, and sometimes you must. But no matter how early you wake up or how late you go to bed, you will always face a limit because you're human. You need rest. You get tired. You can't be everywhere at once. And you certainly can't work 24 hours a day. But your money can. Your money never gets tired. It never calls in sick. It never needs a vacation. It never complains. And it never asks for a raise. If you treat your money right, it will become the most loyal employee you have ever hired. When you invest, you are training every dollar to become a tiny worker, bringing you more dollars. Some people have one worker, some people have 100, some people have thousands. And some people, unfortunately, have none. Their money sits idle, parked, sleeping, doing nothing for them. And idle money is one of the greatest tragedies in the financial world. A young man once came up to me and said, Jim, I'm working 16 hours a day. I'm grinding. I'm hustling. I'm pushing. I'm sure I'll be rich soon. And I had to tell him the truth. I said, no, my friend, you're getting better at being tired. Because if you rely only on your own labor, you will eventually burn out. But if you learn to leverage the labor of your money, you're on your way to freedom. Let's talk about the great miracle behind this habit, compound interest. Now that's a phrase I want you to underline in your mind. Compound interest. The machine that quietly works in your favor. Day after day, month after month, year after year. It doesn't look like much in the beginning. That's why most people give up too early. But stick around long enough and compound interest becomes a giant. Imagine planting a small tree. The first year, it doesn't look like much. The second year, still small. But wait a decade. Wait 2. At that point, the shade it gives is enormous, and the fruit is abundant. That's what investing does. It rewards the patient, not the impulsive. Now, here's the key. You must invest consistently. Not once in a while, not once a year, not when you remember, automatic, steady, month after month. The amount doesn't matter. The habit does. Because every time you invest, you're not just putting money away, you're voting for your future. I once met a woman who invested just a small portion of her income every month, barely noticeable amounts. But she started early, and she stayed consistent. 30 years later, she wasn't just comfortable, she was free. Meanwhile, her friends who earned more but saved nothing were still working, still pushing, still struggling, not because they lacked income, but because they lacked the habit. Don't wait for the perfect investment. Don't wait to learn everything. Don't wait until you have more. Waiting is the enemy of wealth. Start small. Start now. Start consistently. Because the greatest secret the wealthy know is this. It's not the size of your investment, it's the repetition of it. And the moment you understand that every little dollar you invest becomes an employee working for your future, you will never look at money the same way again. You'll start asking, how many workers did I hire today? Instead of, how much did I spend today? And that shift, that little change in philosophy, could open the door to a life you never imagined. When your money works while you sleep, you start to taste the first real flavor of freedom. And ladies and gentlemen, once you taste that, you'll never want to go back. Now let's move to the third habit, and this one is a real eye-opener. It may not sound glamorous, but it is absolutely essential if you want to build wealth that lasts. And I call it the habit of controlling your cash flow. In simple terms, tell your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Most people don't go broke because of one big mistake. Oh no. Most people go broke because of 1,000 little ones. The small leaks, the unnoticed spending, the mindless purchases, the just this once buys that happen again and again and again. It's not the giant hole that sinks the ship, it's the little ones you never patch. I once told a young man, "Let me see your expenses." He proudly handed me a sheet with the big items: rent, food, utility bills. And I said, "Where are the little items?" He laughed. "Jim, those aren't important." And I said, "Young man, it's never the lions that eat your financial future. It's the termites." We opened his account, we went through 1 month of spending, and he sat there stunned. He didn't realize how much money he was letting slip through his fingers, not because he was foolish, but because he was unaware. You see, awareness is power. Awareness gives you choice. Awareness gives you control. You cannot control what you don't measure. And if you don't control your money, I promise you, your money will control you. And it doesn't control you gently either. It pressures you. It stresses you. It limits your options. It tells you when to wake up, when to work, when to hustle, when to sacrifice. You become the employee of your expenses. But the wealthy, they do something different. They treat every dollar like a soldier. They give it a mission. They ask, where are you going? What are you building? What are you protecting? What are you earning? They don't let their dollars wander into impulse purchases or emotional spending. They direct them with purpose. Once a quarter, the wealthy sit down and review every category, every expense, not because they're stingy, but because they're smart. They understand that money behaves best when it's supervised, and they cut what isn't serving them. They keep what strengthens them. They refine, they adjust, they improve. Like a gardener pruning a tree, not to punish it, but to help it grow. Now, let me give you something that could change your financial life. I call it the 30-day awareness challenge. For 30 days, write down every dollar you spend, every coffee, every snack, every subscription, every impulse buy, every dollar. It's just a few dollars. And at the end of those 30 days, you will see exactly what kind of relationship you have with money. You may be surprised. You may be shocked. You may even be embarrassed. And that's good. That means you're waking up. Remember this line, I've taught it for years. You cannot build wealth with money you do not control. You can't invest what you've already spent. You can't grow what you constantly leak. And you cannot create freedom out of financial chaos. When you learn to tell every dollar where to go, you step into a different kind of life. A life where you're no longer reacting, you're directing. No longer guessing, you're deciding. No longer drifting, you're designing. And that, my friends, is the beginning of financial power. Now that you've learned to control your cash flow, it's time to direct that money towards something truly powerful. And this brings us to the fourth habit, a habit that determines whether you will look rich or be rich. And those two are not the same. I call this habit, build assets, not liabilities. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Many people who look wealthy are one paycheck away from trouble. They have the car, the clothes, the gadgets, the image. But image is expensive. And appearance never pays bills. Appearance never generates income. Appearance never builds freedom. It only builds pressure. The poor and middle class often buy things that make them feel rich, while the rich buy things that make them become rich. That's the difference. A liability takes money out of your pocket. An asset puts money into your pocket. Simple, clear, life-changing. A gentleman once proudly showed me his brand new car, shiny, polished, impressive. And he said, "Jim, this is my biggest asset." I said, "My friend, that is not an asset. That's a promise that you will keep paying for it month after month after month." He looked at me shocked, but it was true. That car wasn't feeding him. It was feeding the bank. Now, don't misunderstand me. There's nothing wrong with nice things. But the key is this: buy nice things after your assets can pay for them, not before. The wealthy do something very different from the average person. They use their money to buy value, things that grow, things that produce, things that work for them even when they're asleep. They buy 3 kinds of assets. First, financial assets. Stocks, index funds, rental property, business ownership, anything that grows or pays dividends. These are your money trees. Plant enough of them, and one day they will shade you from the heat of financial worry. Second, skill assets. Skills that make you more valuable. Skills that increase your earning power. Skills that help you solve bigger problems for bigger rewards. Skills never depreciate. They never go out of style, and they can never be taken away. Third, intellectual assets. Books you write, courses you create, businesses you build, ideas you develop, systems you design. These are the assets that can work without you, scale beyond you, and outlive you. Now let me tell you a little story. I once met a man who owned a modest-looking apartment building. Nothing fancy, nothing luxurious. If you drove past it, you probably wouldn't give it a second look. But every month, that little building sent him checks. Quietly, consistently, predictably. And he said, "Jim, this building is my freedom. It works harder than I ever did." Contrast that with another man I knew. Beautiful home, luxury car, designer, everything. He looked successful. But if he lost his job, he told me he wouldn't last 3 months. That's not wealth. That's a trap decorated with nice furniture. So ask yourself this question and be honest. Am I buying things or am I buying freedom? Because every liability you buy is a chain, and every asset you buy is a key. Let me give you the philosophy in one sentence. Buy what appreciates, not what impresses. What impresses wears out. What appreciates pays out. And if you start following this simple rule, this shift in mindset, you'll notice something remarkable. Your life will begin to feel lighter. Your stress will begin to fade. Your future will begin to brighten. Because when you own assets, you own options. And when you own options, you begin to own your life. Now we come to the 5th habit, and I believe it is the crown jewel of all the wealth building principles. The habit that determines your income, your influence, your opportunities, and in many cases, your entire destiny. And it's this: increase your value. Make yourself more valuable to the world. Let me tell you a truth that changed my life. You don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. Some people earn $15 an hour. Some earn $50 an hour. Some earn $500 an hour. Same hour. Same 60 minutes. What's the difference? Value. The marketplace doesn't reward time. It rewards contribution. It doesn't reward effort. It rewards results. It doesn't pay you because you need the money. It pays you because you become valuable. I once asked my mentor, "How do I make more money?" And he didn't say, "Work harder." He didn't say, "Work longer." He didn't say, "Wait for your company to notice you." He said, "Jim, you get paid exactly what you deserve from the marketplace. And if you want to earn more, become more." That struck me. It stayed with me. And it changed everything. If you want to earn more, don't wish for more money. Wish for more skills. Don't hope for a raise. Increase your value until the raise has no choice but to find you. Don't wait for opportunity. Prepare yourself so deeply that opportunity starts waiting for you. Now, how do you increase your value? 3 ways. First, by learning. Read the books. Attend the classes. Study the masters. And don't just read casually. Read seriously. Read intentionally. Read with a plan to change. Because learning is the great equalizer. It turns ordinary people into extraordinary contributors. Second, by practicing. Skills are built through repetition. Value is built through mastery. You can't become valuable by dabbling. You become valuable by committing. When others quit, you stay. When others get bored, you get better. When others look for shortcuts, you continue sharpening your craft. Third, by serving. Value is not about what you can take from the world, it's about what you can give. The more people you help, the more valuable you become. The better you solve problems, the more the marketplace rewards you. You cannot become wealthy without becoming useful. Not for long, anyway. Years ago, I knew a young man who told me, "Jim, I want to make more money." And I asked him, "What skills do you have that the marketplace truly needs?" He paused, he thought, and then he said, "Not many." I said, "That's the problem. Money doesn't chase desire, it chases value." Another person I knew earned very modestly at first. But every day, he spent 1 hour improving his skills, 1 hour sharpening his mind, 1 hour becoming just a little better than he was yesterday. And over time, the gap between him and everyone else widened and widened and widened, until one day he was no longer competing with the masses, he was being sought after by the few. Because that's what increasing your value does. It lifts you out of the crowd and puts you in a category of your own. Now remember this line, it's one of the most important you'll ever learn. Your income rarely exceeds your personal development. If you want to change your income, change yourself. If you want to change your future, change your philosophy. If you want to change your life, change your daily habits. Growth is invisible at first. You won't notice it on day 1. You may not notice it on day 10, but stay with it. Stay consistent. And one day, you will wake up with a skill set, a mindset, an attitude, and yes, an income that you can hardly recognize. Become more valuable to the marketplace, and the marketplace will take care of you. Become more valuable to people, and people will remember you. Become more valuable to yourself, and your confidence will rise like the morning sun. And that, my friends, is the highest form of wealth, because once you become valuable, you can never go back to being ordinary. Now that we've walked through these 5 habits, let me show you something even more powerful the moment you bring them together. Because each habit alone can help you. But when you combine them, when you weave them into the fabric of your daily life, something magical happens. You begin to build not just wealth, but a system of wealth, a structure, a foundation, a machine that works day and night, year after year, to shape your financial future. Wealth is never the result of one big action. Wealth is the result of 1,000 small actions aligned in the same direction. Let me say that again. 1,000 small actions aligned in the same direction. That's your system. Think of these 5 habits like the gears of a great machine, interlocking, supporting, and powering each other. The first habit, pay yourself first, creates the discipline. It's the beginning. It's the decision that says my future matters. The second habit, invest consistently, multiplies your discipline. It takes the money you saved and gives it a job. It puts it to work. It creates momentum. The third habit, control, your cash flow protects your system. It closes the leaks. It keeps the machine running smooth. It ensures your hard-earned money doesn't slip away unnoticed. The fourth habit, build assets, not liabilities, expands your foundation. It increases your strength. It adds streams of income. It puts more soldiers on your financial battlefield. And the fifth habit, increase your value, is the engine. It's the upgrade, the booster, the habit that enhances every other habit. Because as you grow, your income grows, your opportunities grow, your wisdom grows, and your wealth grows right along with you. When these habits work together, let me tell you, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a shift inside. At first, you feel more confident. Then you feel more in control. Then you begin to feel free. And freedom is the ultimate goal. Let me give you a metaphor I used to teach my students. Imagine you are a farmer. You don't plant one seed, walk away, and expect a harvest. You plant many seeds. You water them. You protect them. You watch over them. And because they work together, because each one grows beside the other, you soon have not just plants, but a field, a harvest, a season of abundance. Wealth works the same way. One habit won't change your life, but a system will. And once you create that system, something else happens. Your habits begin working without you. They become automatic. They become natural. They become part of who you are. And when habits become identity, the results become inevitable. Now let me share a little routine that can help you strengthen your wealth system. Every morning, spend 10 minutes learning something that increases your value. A page from a good book, a lesson, a principle, tiny improvements that compound. Every week, review your spending, plug the leaks, direct every dollar with purpose. Every month, invest automatically. Even if it's small, especially if it's small, consistency is worth more than intensity. Every year, add one new asset, a stock, a skill, a side business, a rental unit, a valuable partnership, something that grows. Small actions, regular actions, intentional actions, that's the system, that's the magic. And I promise you, if you apply this system long enough, you'll reach a point where money doesn't control you anymore. You'll look around and realize you're no longer surviving, you're living. You're no longer chasing, you're attracting. You're no longer hoping, you're building. Because wealth, true wealth, is not a moment. It's not a windfall. It's not a miracle. It is a system, a philosophy, a way of life. Now that we've pieced together the system of wealth, I need to give you a warning, one that I wish someone had given me earlier in life. Because if you misunderstand this next point, you can reverse years of progress in just a few careless moments. Here it is. Wealth does not respond to wishes. It responds to discipline. Everybody dreams of being wealthy. Everybody. I've never met a person who said, Jim, I'd really love to struggle forever, but the truth is, most people dream of wealth, yet live by habits that create poverty. And dreams without discipline, well, they become disappointments. You see, dreams are wonderful. Dreams inspire you. Dreams wake you up in the morning. Dreams paint a picture of the life you want. But dreams don't build that life. Discipline builds that life. And discipline is not magical. It's not emotional. It's not dramatic. Discipline is simple, quiet, uncomfortable, repetitive. It's doing the small things you don't want to do so you can achieve the big things everybody else only talks about. When I was younger, I had dreams. I dreamed of wealth, of success, of a good life, but my habits didn't match my dreams. My mentor said, Jim, if your habits don't match your goals, you must either lower your goals or raise your habits. And I decided I was tired of lowering my goals. Let me tell you something important. The price of discipline is always smaller than the price of regret. You can pay a little now, or you can pay a lot later. Some people avoid the small price, skipping the savings, skipping the investing, skipping the learning, skipping the hard choices, and then life presents them a bill. And let me tell you, life charges interest, high interest. I've seen people work their whole lives only to realize at 50 or 60 that they have nothing to show. And it breaks them not because they lacked effort, but because they lacked disciplined effort. They worked hard, but without a plan, without a philosophy, without systems. They chased income, but never built wealth. Now let me give you another warning. Don't wait. Waiting is the enemy of wealth. People say, I'll save later. I'll invest later. I'll get disciplined later. I'll start when I earn more. I'll begin when things calm down. My friend, life never calms down. Life doesn't wait for you. And money certainly won't wait for you. If you don't plant in the spring, you won't have a harvest in the fall, no matter how sincerely you hope for it. The wealthy understand the seasons. They understand timing. They understand urgency. Not panic, but urgency. The quiet voice inside that says, start today. Not perfectly, but start. Let me give you a line that can change your life. You don't have to make radical changes. You only need to make consistent ones. The people who get wealthy aren't the ones who take giant leaps. They're the ones who keep taking small steps. Every day, every week, every month, for years. Another warning. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. People see someone wealthy and say, must be nice. But they don't see the early mornings. They don't see the late nights. They don't see the lonely decisions. They don't see the discipline practiced in private for years before the success appeared in public. Wealth is built quietly, gradually, patiently, and almost always invisibly. One day, you'll wake up and realize the habits you resisted, saving, investing, learning, building, have turned into a life you've always wanted. And when you reach that day, I promise you, you'll be grateful you didn't just dream, you acted. You disciplined yourself. You did the small things long enough for them to turn into big results. Remember this, dreams give your life direction. Discipline gives your life results. And the bridge between where you are and where you want to be is built one disciplined step at a time. Well, my friends, we've come to the end of our journey together. And I hope, truly hope, that something you've heard today has stirred a little spark inside you. Because everything we've talked about, every habit, every principle, every idea is meant for one purpose, to help you build a life you're proud of, a life by design, not by default. Let's do a quick review of the foundations we've built today. We began with the truth that wealth isn't about luck, it's about habits. Small actions repeated daily. Then we learned the first habit, pay yourself first. Give your future a vote, a portion, a priority. The second habit, invest consistently. Let your money work while you sleep. Let time and compounding be your greatest partners. The third habit, control your cash flow. Know where every dollar goes. Direct it, command it, shape it. The fourth habit, build assets, not liabilities. Buy what grows, not what fades. Choose freedom over appearance. And the fifth habit, increase your value. Work on yourself harder than you work on your job. Because you are the greatest asset you will ever own. Then we tied it all together into a system, a structure, a philosophy, something you can live by, grow with, and pass on to your children and your grandchildren. But now as we close, let me leave you with one simple truth that I've taught for decades. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction this very moment. And changing direction is powerful. It means you've decided, you've committed, you've chosen a different future. And once you choose, everything else begins to rearrange itself around that decision. Don't wait until you have more money to start these habits. Start now. Don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't exist. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. This is your life. This is your future. This is your responsibility. I often say, you don't have to be extraordinary to start, but you do have to start to become extraordinary. So start today, not tomorrow, today. Start with one habit, one change, one small act of discipline. And if you keep going quietly, consistently, your future will rise to meet you. And before I go, let me leave you with one final line I've carried for years. The gift of today is the greatest wealth you have. Use it wisely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I truly hope you build a life of freedom, value, and abundance. Because you deserve it, and now you have the tools to create it.